Stop scrolling for a moment, because this message is not ordinary. If you are someone who goes to church, prays, and believes you are walking on the right path, what you are about to hear may shake you, but it may also protect you. Many people think that simply attending church is enough to stay spiritually safe. But the truth is deeper and more serious than that. There are certain actions, habits, and attitudes that many Christians unknowingly carry into the house of God. And instead of bringing them closer to divine protection, these things can actually open doors to negative spiritual influences. This is not meant to scare you, but to awaken you, because awareness is the first step toward protection, and what you don't know can silently work against you. The first thing many Christians do is enter the church without preparing their hearts. They walk in distracted, thinking about their problems, their phones, or their daily stress, without shifting their mindset toward God. When your heart is not aligned, your presence becomes physical but not spiritual. This creates a gap, and in that gap, negativity can grow. Another thing is holding on to unforgiveness. Imagine standing in a holy place while still carrying anger, resentment, or bitterness towards someone. That emotional weight blocks spiritual connection and weakens your inner strength. Forgiveness is not just for others, it is protection for your own soul. Another common mistake is treating worship like entertainment. Some people go to church, listen to music, sing songs, but their hearts are not truly engaged. They judge the performance instead of participating in the presence. This turns something sacred into something casual. And that shift in attitude can slowly disconnect you from true spiritual power. Then there is gossip. Even inside the church, people talk about others, judge them, and spread negativity. Words carry energy, and when negative words are spoken in a sacred space, they don't just disappear, they leave a mark. Many also ignore conviction. Deep inside, there are moments when you feel something is wrong, when your conscience tells you to change something, but you push that feeling away. Ignoring that inner voice repeatedly can dull your spiritual sensitivity, making it easier for wrong influences to enter your life. Another door opens when people attend church out of habit, not intention. When faith becomes routine, it loses its power. You show up, sit, listen, and leave, but nothing changes inside you. And over time, that emptiness can grow. Pride is another dangerous factor. Feeling superior to others because of your faith, judging those who are struggling, or believing you are more righteous creates distance between you and true humility. And without humility, spiritual growth stops. Then comes distraction, phones buzzing, minds wandering, attention divided. These small things seem harmless, but they weaken your focus and reduce the impact of the message you are receiving. Some people also resist change. They hear powerful messages, feel inspired for a moment, but once they leave the church, they go back to the same habits, the same mindset, the same actions. When you repeatedly ignore transformation, you block your own progress. Another subtle mistake is depending only on the church for your spiritual life. True strength comes from daily connection, not just weekly attendance. Without personal discipline, your spiritual foundation becomes weak. Fear also plays a role. Instead of trusting in God's protection, many live in constant worrying, anxiety, and doubt. Fear can slowly replace faith if not addressed. And finally, one of the biggest mistakes is lack of awareness. Not realizing that your thoughts, words, and actions carry spiritual consequences can leave you unguarded. Now listen carefully, because this goes even deeper. It's not just about what happens inside the church building, it's about what happens inside you while you're there. Many people think spiritual doors only open through obvious wrongdoing, but in reality, the most dangerous doors are open through subtle patterns, silent habits, and unnoticed behaviors. And if you are not aware of them, they can slowly shape your life without you even realizing it. One of the most overlooked things is spiritual passivity. This happens when you sit in church, hear powerful messages, feel something in your heart, but choose not to respond. You don't act on it, you don't change anything. You just move on as if nothing happened. Over time, this creates a disconnect between what you hear and how you live. And when that gap becomes too wide, your spiritual sensitivity starts to fade. You begin to hear less, feel less, and respond less. That silence inside you can become an open space where negative influence quietly settles. Another thing many Christians struggle with is comparison. Sitting in church and looking at others, how they worship, how they pray, how they live, and then measuring yourself against them. This can lead to jealousy, insecurity, or even pride. But comparison pulls your focus away from your own spiritual journey. Instead of growing, you start competing. And when your attention shifts like that, you lose connection with what truly matters. Then there is the issue of divided loyalty. Some people come to church, raise their hands, speak words of faith, but outside those walls, their lifestyle tells a completely different story. This inconsistency creates internal conflict. You begin to live two lives, one in front of people and one in private. And that inner division weakens your spiritual foundation. Another subtle but powerful door is doubt. Not the kind of doubt that asks questions and seeks understanding, but the kind that slowly erodes your trust. When you constantly question everything and allow negative thoughts to dominate your mind, you begin to lose your sense of direction. Faith requires trust, and when trust is replaced with constant uncertainty, your spiritual stability begins to shake. Many people also underestimate the power of their thoughts. Sitting in a sacred place while thinking negative, judgmental, or impure thoughts creates an internal conflict. Your body is present, but your mind is somewhere else entirely. And your mind shapes your reality. So if you don't guard it, it can work against you even in a place meant for peace. Another behavior that often goes unnoticed is selective obedience. This is when you accept the parts of the message that are comfortable, but ignore the parts that challenge you. You agree with what feels good, but reject what requires change. Over time, this creates a version of faith that lacks real transformation. There is also the habit of seeking validation from people instead of connection with God, focusing more on how you are seen rather than how you truly are inside turns something spiritual into something performative. And when your focus shifts to people, you lose the depth of true connection. Another important point is what happens after you leave the church. If you spend 1 hour in a positive environment but the rest of your time surrounded by negativity, distractions, and harmful influences, it creates imbalance. Your spiritual strength needs consistency, not occasional attention. Impatience is another factor. Wanting immediate results and feeling frustrated when things don't change quickly can weaken your faith. Spiritual growth is a process that requires time and discipline. When you rush it, you miss the depth of the journey. There is also a lack of self-reflection. Many people hear messages but never look within themselves. They don't ask what needs to change in their own life. Without reflection, the message never becomes personal. And if it's not personal, it won't transform you. Another hidden issue is spiritual pride disguised as knowledge. Knowing more does not mean growing more. Without humility, knowledge becomes a barrier instead of a bridge. And finally, one of the most silent problems is disconnection. Being physically present but emotionally and spiritually distant. Going through the motions without truly engaging weakens your connection. And without connection, your faith loses its strength. But here is the truth that changes everything. Every door that has been opened can also be closed. And it starts with awareness. The moment you become aware, you gain the power to change. You can choose to walk into church with intention, with focus, and with a prepared heart. You can choose forgiveness, humility, and awareness. You can turn routine into relationship and presence into real connection. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be aware and willing. Because real change happens through consistent choices. Every time you choose focus over distraction, humility over pride, faith over fear, and truth over comfort, you strengthen your spiritual life. So the next time you step into church, don't just go physically, arrive spiritually. Don't just listen, engage. Don't just hear, respond. Protect your mind, guard your heart, and stay aware. Because your spiritual life is shaped by what you allow, what you think, and what you do every single day. And remember this message reached you for a reason.